everybody, it's me, John Ward, and I am back with another One Filmmaker, One Film. And today, my guest is
Boll, yeah. So,
and you are, and I mentioned this to you before we started recording, you're one of my favorite filmmakers. And I know that you have that you get a bad rap, and I think that that is incredibly unfair, incredibly unfair. I don't think people have seen the majority of your movies, and I think that they focus on a couple films, and that's about it. And they don't understand how political you are. I don't think that they understand what you're trying to say with your films. And right now, you have a new film coming out called First Shift. You have three other movies that are in different forms of being in production. So you have new movies coming out. Can you please tell us what First Shift is?
yeah, First Shift is, we shot it in New York last year, and it's basically a cop drama with a lot of humor too, because we have this kind of typical situation in a way that Gino Pesi plays Detective Deo, and he gets a new partner, and her name is Angela, and she comes from Atlanta. Kristen Renton plays her, and and he doesn't want to work with her, but she's very excited to work with him. So now you have this kind of the clash from the beginning on, right? So he's like, I'm going alone normally, whatever. And of course, during this first shift, they have to cover the asses together, and they go through like a lot of things, like a mafia killing, a suicide in the family, a lost dog. So all kinds of stuff what can happen on your first shift. So and yeah, it was hard, but also very, very good to shoot in New York, because New York, I think, is the only city where nobody cares if you shoot. Like, there's nobody looking to the camera. You can shoot on Times Square. People are walking by the camera like the camera is not existing. And you can go in the subway and everything. Of course, New York is very expensive in regards of like hotels and stuff. And it's very shitty traffic. So if you do like kind of a road movie, what we did, it's not easy, because you have like, beside whatever the picture car drives away, you have the red light, and now you have to walkie-talkie, like, try to stop somewhere so we can come up to you. And that is, of course, like a logistic nightmare in the traffic. But you also have the amazing looking city. You know, it's only New York what looks like this. It's just like, you cannot duplicate this
Right.
endless Manhattan, and we shot in Long Island, we shot in Brooklyn, Queens. So and I think it's kind of a homage to New York also. And I think New York is like what you said with Vegas. Is like, I love to be in New York, but not to live in New York. You know, it's kind of like to visit, or when we were there basically for a month, I enjoy it. But then it also gets you that it's like, it's too stressful, loud, sirens everywhere. It's like, it's not in 24 hours. I lived in Brooklyn in a hotel, and you could hear police sirens 24/7.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, yeah. And it was very dirty in Brooklyn. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with the garbage, but I think they had a huge problem with the garbage pickups. Everywhere were rats and stuff. So it's really like, it's not a good looking city anymore, but it's a great looking city for a gritty cop film. So yeah, so that film I did. And then I just finished a shoot in post-production of the film Run, what is kind of an action film about the migration crisis in Europe, with American actors. Amanda Plummer is in it, James Russo, Barkat Abdi from Captain Phillips, so various Costas Mandalore from Saw. So and it's basically this refugee boats who always coming in every day, like to Italy or Spain, and then you have like the people jumping off the boat and running. They try to illegal migrate. And I show one little town where a situation like this totally escalates, with a hostage situation, with a lot of action, basically. And I'm happy that I got all that actors doing it. it's a highly like political subject matter, but at the same, because migration is in the US and in Europe, the biggest issue, right? So, I mean, it's like the #1 talk of where everybody talks about, like, we cannot handle more migration from Africa. It's just too much in the too short time period. In the US is a little similar with now everybody, Honduras, Guatemala, from everywhere, people coming in. It's too many. And, but I felt I don't want to make a big art film about it. I want to do more an action film where you use that backstory, backdrop with, we follow individual like characters through that day. And we will have migrants that are very like they want to work, they just want a better life, whatever. You have migrants that go straight to the drug dealing, and then you have citizens who are like going bankrupt because there's no more tourism because of all the refugees coming in and stuff like this. So yeah, I'm very excited about this film, what is now in post-production.
Okay. And then I saw that there were 2 others that were also up there, Banditos and 12 Hours.
Yeah,
These
so
I found on
Bandito,
Wikipedia. So would that be correct?
yes. So Banditos is a docu. It's a documentary about the Banditos motorcycle club. And they are with the Hells Angels, the biggest ones.
Oh.
And I started in a way, I met the bosses of the Banditos in Germany more or less by accident. Then I told them, look, what is with the documentary? And they said, look, we looking like criminals in the public view, in the newspapers. We have no, like, people hate us, basically, or the government hates us, the press hates us. And I said, yeah, but it's the whole point for a documentary. Like, in my documentary, you can talk. You can say how you see the last 20 years, how you react to the press and whatever. So, and then for 3.5 years, I shot the docu on and off. So, you know, it was not like every day I worked on the docu, but it was like this kind of, they called me and said, we're meeting in Barcelona for the world run of the Banditos with 6,000 bikers, right? And then we shot in Barcelona. Then they said, we have a party in Berlin, come to the party. So they let me in everywhere, but
nice.
They never gave me really sit-down interviews for 3 years. So means we catch nice stuff, but only like here and there, they answer the line. And then after 3 years, in a way, they trusted me that I'm not like totally screwing them over. And so then they were sitting down for longer interviews about the club. And that was very good because nobody got that interview so far in the whole 50 years. And so this docu is finished and will get released, I assume, on Amazon or whatever streaming. We will see. It will be English subtitles. Some is in English, most is in German, and then it's subtitles with it. But I think it's very interesting. So in 12 Hours is the project. Also, I follow this project a longer time where a guy has to kill 5 people in 12 hours or his family's dead. It's like a classical action thing. But we couldn't get, for this, you need a famous actor, you know, and I couldn't get one so far. You cannot shoot this with a C actor or B- actor. You cannot sell it. You need, like, if I have Nicolas Cage doing it, I would sell the film, right? So that is the thing. So I have the problem there with the casting, that I'm not having the biggest star, or at least the star on that level, you know, where you can say, look, that guy carries the film and this guy will bring me some sales for the film.
You with Nicolas Cage, I think, would be amazing. I mean, he's like 100% dedicated to like whatever he's making. I can only imagine what both of you would produce. I mean, that would be amazing.
I would love it. I love Nicolas Cage. I mean, he is working and working and working, but every film he doesn't play it safe, right? So he is totally different as all this kind of Avenger actors with all that agents who say, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. You know, he just doesn't look for his reputation. He looks for interesting parts. And then you have, like, sometimes it's like mediocre. The film is mediocre, even if he's good. But then you have films in between that just like sensational good. you know, and I never saw him really bad. You know, whatever he
No,
shoots, I never
no.
saw him like failing where you look at this and you think like this guy cannot act or something. Zero. He's always good.
He always stands out. I mean, that's no matter what he does, he's right in the center. I mean, your eye goes to him. Even in his early films, it's just you knew there was something about that guy, and,
Yeah,
and
100%.
he is really interesting. And oh, and with your banditos, my mother, when I was a kid, dated one of the Hells Angels in the Northern California Novato chapter, and
Yeah,
they had the motorcycles and the jackets. And I remember buying a couple of them gifts. I was a little kid, so you know the gifts were little kid type stuff, but
yeah.
they were incredibly nice to me. They were very nice to my mother. I didn't have any problems with them, so you know,
Yeah.
very interested in
No,
seeing
but
your documentary.
and that is also a thing where I of course interview also like the FBI from Germany and stuff like this. But uh, I agree with you. Like the most crimes in this motorcycle clubs is against other clubs, but you barely have a Hells Angels or Banditos breaking in a house and or raping a woman or whatever. They're very respectful to family, to kids, to older people, right? So when you see what kind of crime syndicates are on the streets right now and how many drug gangsters are out there and crazy people are out there, I think they are getting prosecuted so much because they're easy to prosecute, because you find them, you see them, you know, they have the jacket on, you know where the clubhouse is. So for the law enforcement, it's very easy to pin things on them and to prosecute them because they're not running away. They're not hiding in a like kind of a mafia situation where you don't know, is that guy a criminal or not, right? So yeah, that is the thing. I think they are of course not like the Boy Scouts, but there are and there are a lot of times in this kind of the security service, the bouncers, the business, the red light strip clubs, whatever. There are a lot of in that area, but that is not illegal, right? It's not like, of course, there were also drug dealers in the clubs, but it's not the club. That is also a thing. I think there are individual people, they, for example, they try to join the Hells Angels and so on to cover up, like to do under the security of the club, do their own criminal side deals and enterprises, and nobody touches them because they're all fucking scared, right? So if you know you start a bar fight with the Hells Angels, they're coming back to you.
Oh yeah,
You
that is
know,
true.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. So that is the thing, you know, and that is why nobody would touch them or would like oh, better I just give them the money. I don't want to have the problem that at night I'm coming and there are 100 bikers in front of my house.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because that's if you hear those engines coming towards your house, you're in trouble. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
and what I find interesting about you, and I mentioned this earlier, where there's just those couple films that people keep going back to, like House of the Dead or Alone in the Dark, and which House of the Dead is one of my all-time favorite zombie movies. I've seen it probably like 5 times. I absolutely love that movie. I don't know what people have a problem with, but I don't think a lot of people know how political you are. And that's what I would like to kind of touch on now, because I have right here, I have all your films stacked. Uh,
perfect.
um, so and I watched a lot of these. Some of these I've watched for the first time. Some of these I've watched, you know, a couple of times. But going through, I don't think people know about these movies where you have like, you know, Heart of America, which is about a school shooting and bullying.
Yes.
Very good film. Even Postal, which I think is one of your best movies,
Yeah.
has, you know, political stuff in it. The Rampage
Yeah.
trilogy. And then I even have the third, this one here, the
Yeah.
second one on Blu-ray. Attack on Darfur. Oh my God, this is, I think, is your best movie. I mean, I was amazed. This is my second time watching it, and I'm still amazed with this. Auschwitz, which I would put right up there with Darfur. I mean, it's, you know, mistakes happening over and over and over again, genocide, where
Yes.
we haven't learned from anything. And then, you know, Assault on Wall Street, which talks about our, you know, our insurance issues, our medical problems out here, you know, on how it's better to just let somebody die of cancer than it is to help them. And what I find interesting about these movies, especially like Darfur and Auschwitz, you don't shy away from stuff. You are where Hollywood would maybe show 30 seconds or a minute of a massacre. You stay on it for like 20 minutes. Like you show everything. And there were times I went back to be like, okay, how did they do that? You know, how did they do that effect? Or how did they do this? Or, you know, it's, can you please talk to me about like you being political in these political films that I don't, like I said, people judge you for like House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark. Come on, man. You got right here like 6, 7 movies that are important films that people should see. And maybe they haven't.
No, that is the thing. Always when I, for example, when I got the cast for Run Now, I sent them Darfur, you know, as a screener. And that ends all discussions about I'm a bad filmmaker. You know, every single person who watched Darfur said that is one of the best films I ever saw. And you know,
It's
and then
excellent.
it's not like you know, it's not like, oh, how Rotten Tomatoes writes it. I give a shit. It's the fact is, and I'm a film buff myself, I watch everything myself. And various people, Ron Howard watched it and loved it, for example, you know, and I think Hotel Rwanda and Darfur are the best films about Africa. You know, it's like about this kind of political films about Africa. Blood Diamond was good, you know, but I think they showed the grittiness, and I think Darfur is way more brutal as Hotel Rwanda, based on what I've found is like the essence of what happened there. If you hack 500,000 people into pieces, then you have to show in the film that's what's happening to them. But because there was no oil involved and no money, nobody helped them. And you know, and that is the thing where, like in Iraq, Iran, we're always interfering with military force. But as soon as something happens somewhere where nobody gives a shit, people getting killed, and nothing happens. And with Auschwitz, I felt I wanted to do Auschwitz for a long time because I felt they're all like, first of all, in Germany, the filmmakers are all in a way assholes because they want to show the few heroes who tried to stop Hitler, right? You make films about Stauffenberg, whatever, the White Rose people, Anne Frank, whatever you want to, you know, like, but I felt no German filmmaker ever showed what Auschwitz really was, like the killing of people. Like, you know, and when I got it out, it's still in Yad Vashem in Israel, in the constant film thing in the museum in Israel, because the Israelis loved the film because they said, yeah, exactly, that was Auschwitz, right? And when I interviewed that school kids in Germany, who obviously already forgetting what it was, they had no clue, is that's how you repeat history, right?
Right.
And in non-knowledge. And I think when you watch, like, I love Schindler's List and stuff like this, but they don't show really the Holocaust. They tell individual stories of people they tried to help, people who are in the concentration camp, you know. So, but I tried with Auschwitz really to show what Auschwitz really was. Like half of the people who came in were dead the first day they arrived. So, and that when you watch all that films like Schindler's List, you think they're living there for months and months and months before they're getting killed. But that is not real. And yeah, the biggest compliment I ever got in anything written about me was actually not from a journalist. It was just from a Amazon Prime user, whatever. He watched the Sound of Wall Street, whatever. And sometimes I read the commentaries of the real viewers of my films. It's more interesting what the normal non-reviewers think. And he wrote like, if Uwe Boll is not shooting stupid video game-based movies, he's actually the best ice cold reality director out there who really shows us the world as the world is. And that was a huge compliment, right? So because that is exactly what I tried with the Sound of Wall Street, as you said, like that his wife is doing suicide because they cannot afford the medical bills anymore. That's reality, you know.
Yes.
like when the 2008 crisis came, 6,000 people killed themselves. They lost it all, and no banker went to jail. And you know, and even they got hundreds of millions of money when they got thrown out. It's insane. And that is the thing where I see an injustice. I see that with Rampage. I did it with Heart of America, whatever. Like also Stoic, what plays in a jail where people kill a guy in a jail. And I think for me, this kind of films are very, very important. And that is the same with Run, for example. Why I really do Run is because I'm tired of these Vogue films who only show immigrants being heroes, right? They're coming in and then they go to the Olympics, or, you know, or being a professional football player, whatever. Like, yeah. And that stories are great. I have nothing against this. But if you ignore that also a lot of people coming in, they just want your money, or they want to deal drugs, or they are criminals and they're dragging the whole society down, then you're blind on one eye. And I feel like Hollywood and most of in Germany very badly, they don't want this. They only show the hero stories of the migrants. But if you look into the criminal statistic, it's the opposite. It's 1 out of 100 who is a hero, and 80 out of 100 just want your social welfare check. And you know, and that is the thing. And I feel like, as a real independent filmmaker, I think similar as maybe what Oliver Stone was 30 years ago, that is what I'm doing now in a way, right? So to put really the view there where it hurts.
Yeah. And I mean, you show the violence, you show you know, where I don't know how the rest of the world feels, but I know Americans would, you know, oh, why is he showing this? Oh, I don't want to see this, which is why Hollywood really only shows 30 seconds or a minute of something, while you show everything. And you need to show that. I really felt for the main character in Assault on Wall Street. I went to UMC here, and I told the woman, I don't have insurance. I had an infection on the side of my face. I look like the Phantom of the Opera. And she goes, oh, don't worry about it. We see homeless people. Oh, okay. So I let them do what they wanted. I got a bill for almost $15,000. I just work a job. Yeah. You know, how am I going to afford $15,000? And it's just like, this is ridiculous. And the woman said, well, don't worry, we see homeless people. So I thought she was saying, oh, because I don't have insurance, and you guys probably have some sort of backup.
Yeah. Wow.
It's crazy.
Did you have to pay that in full, or they gave you a break on the bill in the end, or what happened?
I started to pay it, and then I had a bunch of friends go, don't pay it, because there is that reserve that they have, because they're expecting you not to pay it.
Okay.
And so I didn't. There was no way that I could. Now, if I become rich or whatever one day, or hit the lottery or something, sure, I would pay it back, because I don't like that. But it's like, if you know people can't pay, then maybe make stuff cheaper. Yes. Make it affordable so they can pay you back. It doesn't make sense. So I really felt sorry for him. And you know, with his wife's suicide, I felt awful, because you're right, that does happen.
Yeah, because the wife basically wants to take the burden off him. And I had in LA one time, I had an ear infection, and I went in a walk-in clinic, to just get eardrops. I said, it's an ear infection. I 100% need antibiotic eardrops, right? And they're like, nah. They looked into it. Then they took my blood. They said, look, let's see what it is, right? Then they, in the end, like 3 hours later, they gave me a prescription for eardrops. And the bill was $650, right? And you feel like, I didn't told you to take my blood. I mean, I came here to give me eardrops, so the eardrops would be like $15 max, you know,
Right.
and you could just prescribe it. I was very mad because I was not living there, so they gave me the bill right there to pay it right there on my credit card, and I paid, but I was so mad, right? I said, look, you did all this shit, what you shouldn't have to do. Now I have the eardrops, and it's for like, you should charge me $50 to talk for 5 to 10 minutes with me, and gave me the eardrops. And now it's 650. You basically charge me for the time I'm waiting here because you don't give me the prescription before the blood test came back. You know?
Yeah, and I basically did the same thing when I went in, because a friend of mine goes, don't let them do anything to you. Don't let them do anything. And I went in saying, I just need an antibiotic. I just need to get rid of this thing. And they're like, oh, well, don't worry, we see the homeless. Don't worry, we could do these tests. Let's just make sure exactly what the infection is. And then that's when $15,000 later came. Yeah, and I sat there for like 4 hours. I think they even charged me for ice chips because there was no water, there was no drinking fountain, there was nothing. And I have a feeling they charged me for this little cup of ice chips. So it was probably like $50 just for that. So it's crazy. So I mean, even stuff like, Heart of America, understanding about, being bullied can lead to a mass shooting, or somebody just tired of the government and businesses in the area that are trying to screw you. You go into McDonald's and it's a beautiful burger and then when you get it, it's all mashed. It looks like somebody hit it. Rampage, I think, is a great example of that. And I know Rampage has a pretty big following, so I know those are known. And so, it's just weird. It's very weird.
I think with Rampage, when I go to a whatever convention or I meet people, whatever, you can really say, like, I did 36 films, but 50% of the DVDs I have to sign is Rampage. Means like, and mostly Rampage 1, because 2 and 3 were smaller, but I think they have a good story to it. And I think Rampage 1 is so turned into a cult film because it's so consequential evil that people love it. It's a little what Usual Suspects was with more violence, or Seven or something. This kind of films where you feel like, wow, so you get surprised and you think like, I never thought that this twist is coming. And in Rampage, I think in the beginning you think it's like Heart of America, a guy runs amok, but then it turns out it was all planned out to the last bit, and that he will rob the bank, get the money, gives a shit about all the dead people. And it's evil in a way, but it's also kind of fun to watch it, right? So people love Bill Williamson, even if he's a mass murderer. And that is not a lot of times in the history this happened. But I'm very happy with Rampage. And still the film, when you see him now, it didn't age. It totally works right now. And when you see the political landscape since Rampage 3, that was 2016, like 8 years ago was Rampage 3. Think what the politics we're in now is so crazy as Rampage 3 ended, like kind of a civil war where everybody shoots everybody up. And that was kind of a foreshadowing, I think, for the craziness of the last 5-6 years on the planet.
Oh, yeah. So they're important films, and I really want people to go see them. What I also would like to look at, and this is on a lighter note, are you do seem to like zombies, and
Yes.
I love zombies. So what I have here, and this isn't just zombies, but um, so we got House of the Dead, which I told you is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
This
The
is
fun.
that director's cut of House of the Dead, which is really fun. You know, you poke fun at your own movie. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
once again, what are people having a problem with? You know, I don't think you're going to get Spielberg, you know, making fun of one of his own movies. Um, Alone in the Dark, which is, you know, one of the ones that people seem to have a problem with.
Yeah.
I saw House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark in the theater when it originally came out, and I got to work with Tara Reid on a film.
Okay.
So I worked Art of the Dead. I worked with her on, and she was very nice, and I enjoyed working with her. Um, and then you have Alone in the Dark, the director's cut,
Yeah.
and I
Not
and then
funny. It was not funny. It was just longer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then Alone
Yeah.
in the Dark 2, and
For that.
then you got your like your the ones that you didn't direct,
Yeah.
but you produced or released. So you know we got Eaters, Zombie Massacre, Anger of the Dead, Zombie Massacre 2, Reich of the Dead.
Yeah.
With these types of movies, the video game films, the zombie movies, and all that, how do you look at those and decide this is what I'm going to make? How, you know, why, you know, there's the director's cuts. How does that
Yeah.
kind of factor into everything?
No, I think there are two, in a way, two overballs, and I think as a director, why you have to limit you to make every film the same. I'm a big fan of genre and also horror and action thriller and so on. And uh, I think there are films just for, in a way, fun and entertainment. And these are this kind of films. And then there are films that are not only entertainment, they have this kind of political views or what's happening on the planet and so on behind it. And I want to do both. And I cannot watch Darfur every day. That makes me extremely depressed. So, you know,
Right.
like, but House of the Dead, it was here in Germany on Amazon Prime. And I was like, zapping through the thing. I was like, oh, there's House of the Dead. So I watched it myself again. I just watched Far Cry again, too. It's also here on Amazon Prime right now. And I loved the films. You know, they were like this kind of, yeah, they got maybe bashed by some reviewers, but in total, they're totally entertaining and not boring for a second. And that is the problem I have with a lot of the newer films or the films of the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of that films, at one point I lose my interest. I'm watching and I think like, oh God, you know, now another 20 minutes chasing scene in Avengers 5. You know, I mean, they have this kind of too long films today. I think the films are all too long. I don't want a 2.5 hours Marvel film. Let's make it 100 minutes and then let's wrap it up. And I felt even like Oppenheimer was too long. Everything is so long. Napoleon from Ridley Scott was endless. There was, I mean, I was sitting there like, guys, stop it. You know, Killer of the Flower Moon was way too long from Scorsese, way too long. And was also 3.5 hours. It's crazy. So I'm a fan of this 90 to 110 minutes and that it has to be entertainment. And I have no problem with that films. And also these films, like also In the Name of the King or stuff like this, they made it possible for me to finance something like Darfur, you know, to say, look, I go in a risk now with money earned from these films. I shoot that Darfur film. I lost a lot of money with the Darfur film, you know, but I felt it's important to do this, so let's do it, you know, and yeah, I think the real film fans or people that are not in it for the money are the people they driving film history forward. You know, I give like look at Coppola. He's very rich. He had the money to spend 120 million on Megapolis, right? So on his will be his last film. But I honor this that he always in his career put his money where his mouth is, right? So he didn't ever shied away on going completely bankrupt on Apocalypse Now. Like, he was done. He had a minus, millions of minus when the film was done. But he recognized, I have to keep doing it. I cannot stop making the film. And I think these are real filmmakers. And a lot in Hollywood now, you have a lot of people that just total, they would never spend a dime on the film. You know, they're in it for the glory, but they would never spend their own money on anything because they know 9 out of 10 movies will make a loss, but they would never go the risk. And that is totally different with like maybe a little older generation or whatever, but it's a lot of people. I think we are not in this to get rich. We are in this to put our stamp on something, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you brought up, you know, In the Name of the King. And so I have with that, I got the unrated director's cut on Blu-ray. And then I got the collection 1, 2, and 3. So and I rewatched last night Raging Bull, and where you're trying to sell this film. Once again, I don't get it. It's right up there, Dungeons and Dragons, it's Lord of the Rings. It's, what is the issue? What is the problem? You have an all-star cast.
Yes.
I mean, oh, In the Name of the King is horrible. Oh my God. Is it really?
No,
I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. It's a good, like action fantasy movie that is right up there with everything else, but people have an issue with it. And it's like, and you couldn't sell it. Well, obviously, eventually you did, but in the film, it didn't. So I don't. What?
Yeah, I agree. It was also like when they said, "Yeah, it's not like Lord of the Rings." I said, "No, but it's better as the Golden Compass." So I mean, you know, like this is the thing. If you compare every single film with the masterpiece of a genre, yeah, right, then you suck. But I agree with In the Name of the King is a very entertaining, big cast, big adventure, sure. And it's right up there, exactly as you said. And they pump hundreds of millions in similar projects. And then you say, look, just release my film and spend 20 million on the release or 30 million on the release. Oh, it's impossible. But why? They do it all the time. And 7 out of 10 of their films bomb. You know, so and that's the thing. And it was interesting because when you see in the US, it bombed because we didn't get on the movie theater side, because we didn't get a real distributor. Fox took all the rights besides theatrical, right? So, and then I had an independent company releasing it theatrically, and that sucked because they don't have the power of a studio. And then it didn't make a big box office. And then Fox released the DVD and sold like 3 million DVDs. Like, it was a massive hit on DVD, massive, and made a lot of money on DVD. But in other countries like Germany, we started same weekend like with American Gangster, and we were number 2 in the box office. In Middle East, we were number 1. In Spain, we were number 1 on the first week, because there we had real distribution companies who saw that film will work. And then they put the money in and the trailering and stuff like this, and it worked very well. So, and that was the thing, what was pissing me off, that in the US, similar to the documentary, is they were all acting like it cannot be that this film is that you can compete it with our films we do on our own. You know, it was this kind of like, they didn't wanted it in a way, but at the same time, they couldn't overlook it based on the cast and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you got Burt Reynolds as a king. You know, come on. He's Burt Reynolds. He's a king. He's Smokey. Exactly. You know, it's beyond me. And I know we have limited time, so I kind of want, I'm going to quickly get through these stacks, but it's because you also have like you know, also video game related. You have stuff like, you know, Blood Rain, which I loved. God, she is so gorgeous in this movie. It's amazing. I mean, and this is the unrated director's cut of Blood Rain 2, Deliverance.
Yeah.
And then this is Blood Rain 3, the Third Reich. I love that they're in different times, that they're not. And then of course Barbarella. So I think these kind of
Barbarella is just like, they couldn't believe it. Like when people watch Barbarella, they think like, oh, what is wrong with you? But I said, look, why not? Like, I loved Lindsay Hollister in Postal, and I wanted to make a film with her. Why not having a parody on that superhero girl stuff like Blood Rain? And you're right. That was the idea, that I'm not the guy who could shoot 6 times Resident Evil, and it's basically the same thing. I wanted to go with Blood Rain every time like 100 years forward, from the medieval time to the Wild West to the Second World War. And I would love to do Blood Rain 4 playing now, but Majesco lost the rights, and that company who has the rights now, they don't want that I make a film. And there's nothing I can do about it, So I asked them why. I think my films, in a way, are more prominent as the game. The game was never a real hit. Like Far Cry was a real big smash hit video game. But Blood Rain was never like a super hit as a video game. And I think my film helped the property. It helped them too, selling games. And that they disallow the part number 4 is not clever from their end. It's like, I don't get it, so.
But if it's present day, it would be cheap. I mean, you wouldn't be spending a ton of money on it. It's not like you're doing it in the 60s.
No, I know, but if you do it in the present day, you as you said, like, you can play everything how it is. You don't need to build a world like the Second World War or whatever. And so it would be cheap, but also in a way you can also put all the effort in special effects and action now. But you don't need an old-timer car. You can just have the normal Honda Civic drive. Yeah, this is the thing. It's like, that is the thing. It's like, I also don't get it. It made me very mad that we couldn't do this. And I also think, because you're right with House of the Dead, my wife has like a tracker, like when she sees when somebody writes something about me, and she says 50%. Every day are still hundreds of posts and people writing about House of the Dead. Every day, And she said, if you do a new House of the Dead, like a reboot, what they did with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, she said it will be a big hit. And I ignored it for years, and I felt at one point, no, maybe you're right. If we do House of the Dead again, but we're not doing the same story. We do House of the Dead, but not different actors, like a total reboot. I think it has a big potential. That the people want to watch that.
I would definitely watch it. And I know you're not involved in these, but what is your take on like House of the Dead 2? And then there's that Dead and Deader, which I think it was originally part 3.
Yeah, but I was not really. I didn't read the scripts. I was not like in a way involved. And House of the Dead 2 was not good. I didn't like it,
It's not a house, it's a college campus. And that Dead and Deader, it wouldn't be a house either. It's a military base.
Yeah.
So call it Army of the Dead before Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead came out, I guess. So it's well, okay, so then so you also have, and this is, you like slasher, because I'm going to ask you something about this time, speaking of sequels. So we got Seed, which is unrated. And what's nice is some of these have the actual game inside. So you get the movie and the game, like a PC game. So that's pretty cool. Blackwoods.
Yeah.
And then this is, Sanctimonium. That's got a
I never saw that Sanctimony and the Blackwoods cover. But after the podcast, can you send me a photo of that DVDs of the covers? That would be great. I love that cover. Great.
Oh, of this one? Sure.
Yeah, you can send me a photo of it or scan it on a PDF or whatever. It would be great if I have it, just for my collection of cover shots, basically.
Oh, of course. Yeah, because when I ordered it, there were a couple different covers. I'm like, oh no, this one looks awesome. So I got to grab it.
Yeah.
Now, with Seed, there is a sequel, and it was actually shot out here in Vegas.
Yeah.
There was a couple different cuts of it. What are your thoughts on other people making like the sequels to your games? I believe you had something to do with part two. Do you allow people to do remakes? Do you allow people to do sequels? How does that work?
On Seed, I allowed it to the filmmaker. He's a German guy. He's more a splatter horror director, so I allowed it. And I mean, do I regret it? Not really, but people were like, "Oh, it is so shitty," you know. Like they said like they hated Seed too. I said, "Look, but it's not. I was not involved in the script or whatever or in the filmmaking." And I felt I give this younger director a chance, you know, that he can use the name and make a sequel. And he sold it everywhere. So for him, it was good. It sold better as if he would had a title what has nothing to do with my film. But the film has nothing to do with my film. Besides the costume, in a way. Seed looked like, in the second part, he looked like my guy. So, yeah. And no, that was my most busy year, right? Where I think I did Postal and Seed almost back to back. And it was for like my normal technical crew so different, right? So they were like, "Ugh." We go to the most gruesome horror from the most like absurd, goofy Kentucky Fried Chicken style comedy, you know? So, yeah.
I love Postal. I thought it was really good, and of course the you know Zach Ward is and I'm John Ward, you know, so I got to like that because it has my last name. But he's an awesome actor too. So it's I love Postal and
It was in Postal so good. And it was like when he came to an audition and we hired him right because we were looking at us like that's the Postal dude. Like within 5 seconds in him starting talking, you know, where you feel like this desperation and but also aggression he has, and you know that was perfect for the script. I recently had in the movie theaters in Germany was a screening of Postal, and I went there, and it was so great to see that on the big screen, and the audience were laughing their asses off because you don't get films like this anymore. I mean, think about it, would now send the script Postal to Netflix, they would flip completely out on you. Like, this is racist. This is, you know, that is like the worst thing you can do. And but it's not. And that is also what I said when Postal came out. I said, no, it's beyond, like, the point is, if you make fun and jokes about any race, skin color, and religion and nation, that is freedom. You know, freedom is not when you censor yourself or when you're scared to say something because you fear the consequences and so on. That is not freedom. And I feel that freedom went away from our society now with all this censorship we face in the last 4 or 5 years. You know, it's just like it's one effect of the streamers and tech companies taking over Hollywood is they want to be political, always so correct that they cancel people for nothing. They don't give people a second chance. They're scared to put something out what in any way could infiltrate the stock market on the stock they have or whatever, you know, and that destroys the whole industry. In the times where we had more like this kind of moguls, like the one guy was the boss of the studio, they gave a shit. They were like, well, sounds good, let's do it, you know, and they were not thinking about make sure you have X amount of black people, X amount of Chinese people, X amount
that's
of whatever,
ridiculous. Yeah,
you know, yeah. And they were not never questioning this. Nobody gave a shit. Like, hire your crew and hire the actors and the people you need for that film, how it fits, you know, and then tell the best possible story you can. And I think that is very important. So very, very disappointing, you know, when you see what's happening there now. And it's also when you apply for film festivals, for example, they have huge, like you apply a film to Sundance, like, are you male, female, gender,
Is that,
what?
yeah.
Yeah, you have like 100 choices. Then are you in any form related to natives? Are you in any form a minority? So it's basically a total racist questionnaire, but you get bonus points. If you're a white male, you're toast, right? So
Right.
I'm basically toast on that things because I don't get any points for anything because I'm a middle-aged white guy. You know, it's the end for you. So,
Oh yeah.
and that is so absurd in a way. It's so absurd.
Yeah, it's I'm surprised that Mel Brooks hasn't been canceled, you know, for Blazing Saddles or something, because these people, the you know, the woke community and the the DEIs and all that, don't realize that, you know, he's Jewish, and you know, it's written by Richard Pryor, who's black, and it stars a black guy, and it stars Gene Wilder, who's Jewish, and it's like you have all these this there is that diversity, unintentional diversity in something like Blazing Saddles, which I'm surprised people, you know, because they're so dumb. Oh my God, hey, we need to get rid of him. We need to make his movies disappear. Kind of like Robert Downey Jr. with Tropic Thunder with the blackface.
Yeah.
We all loved it when it came out. And now all of a
great.
sudden, all these new people, oh no, that's wrong. We need, you know, and it just doesn't make sense to me. So something like Postal and your other movies that for some people might be a little extreme are good, because you're not going to get those movies. You're not going to get Animal House or Blues Brothers anymore. You're not going to get these types of movies.
Yeah, but I think they should still at least play the old movies. When Seth Rogen said Superbad and so on aged bad, I think he's dead wrong. I think this was still his best films. The funniest films he did very early in his career, where it's real comedy and where it's disgusting and whatever, you know, all that times of something's wrong about Mary, or something bad about Mary, super bad. Later, like you had the Blues Brothers, the Animal House, that was before the John Belushi time, then Aykroyd, and then came the next thing, the Zucker Abrams, Zucker, Parallel, Kentucky Fried Movie, Airplane, this kind of stuff, Naked Gun. That's comedy, you know, and maybe some jokes were not like, they were not funny, but they gave a shit. And overall, I think if you do comedy, you have to give a shit. You cannot like hold yourself back. You always have to go for this. You have to go forward for this kind of more extreme stuff. Hangover was great, like your first Hangover and so on. You know, because it was so extreme. It went so far where you were laughing your ass off because you couldn't believe it, what's happening. And that is the thing. Now you see comedies and you totally can't believe what's happening because it's boring. You watch it and you think, okay, that's the big twist. I mean, that it's child's play, that it's not like a funny twist. And I think they should all stay strong. Artists should stay strong against that censorship and against this kind of rules they put on you. Then they should say that then I'm not like doing it. And when I watched, like, I started watching with like Kirsten Wick or whatever, like Palm Royale. And then I watched Rich or whatever with Maya Rudolph. These are all TV shows on Apple. They are not funny. There's no joke. You watch these shows and you watch it and you think like, okay, but is it a comedy? No, or is it a drama? You're like, after 40 minutes, you really question, what is this? It's written, it's a comedy, but I don't see the comedy. Like, where are the jokes? You know, where are the funny characters? Where is this kind of like you go over the top? It's not there because they were very, very limited by the studio or the streamer, you know, and say, oh no, that joke better not. And it's a horrible, I think comedy suffered the most the last 5-6 years in regards of they censor themselves before they even put the script in front of somebody. They censor themselves down to no man's land where you're not laughing.
Oh, I completely agree with you 100%. So it's you're not I there's that Julie Louise Dreyfus show, VP, where she plays the
Yes,
vice president.
I love
That
that
is
show.
that is
I,
hilarious. I
yes,
immediately texted a friend of mine, you have to watch this show. It is really politically incorrect. It was made like 5 years ago. I can't believe this got greenlit. And
mm,
it's hilarious. So when I find those shows,
yeah,
I let other people know about them because everything else is garbage. It's
yeah.
just it's not even worth it. So
But think about that show. I watched all the seasons from Veep, and there was, I think, HBO, and HBO is known, at least it was known, for going a little edgy, what is great. Curbed Enthusiasm, I love that too, with Larry David. And the Veep I loved because it's
yeah,
so
Veep.
close
Yeah, not
to,
VP, Veep. Yeah.
yeah, it's so close to my Postal film in a way, and it's at the same time this kind of everybody is an asshole. Like Julia Dreyfus is a total fucking asshole, right? So, and that is what makes it so funny, that this Washington, like, they all undermine each other. They all play dirty games, and it's all about like maneuvering people out. It's like House of Cards and funny, you know, and it's also like Washington how it is. I think Veep is closer to the reality as the reality we see on CNN. That it's really like nobody gives a shit about doing something positive for the people. Like they give a shit. It's all about their personal careers and enrichment. No matter what parties they are, they're all the same. It's just the career
Oh
what they
yeah.
put in the middle of it. And I love that show. But that show, you're right. I think the last season was over 5 years ago. So it means like they started 10 years ago or something, and then they did 6, 7 seasons. So that show would never get greenlit again.
No,
Never.
no, it can't.
No.
I mean, maybe hopefully sometime down the road, this will all, it's just a phase or a trend or it's
Yeah.
whatever. And at some point it will end and we can finally get back to
Yeah.
good, risky, edgy filmmaking and TV shows. So I got one more stack. One
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So we all now these are kind of random. So we got
Yeah.
Tunnel Rats. Then we got then here's Far Cry.
Yeah.
Based on a video game. So
Yeah.
I like this one. I like the mad scientist and creating these creatures. I thought was pretty cool too. And
Yeah.
it's always good to see him too. He's good. Isn't
Yeah.
he like something like the Tom Cruise of Germany? That's what I heard.
Till Schweiger, yeah, very, very successful in Germany. Yeah.
The Final Storm,
Yeah.
which is kind of end of the world. It's like I'm blanking on the name. It's the apocalypse or type thing where it's all gonna. Oh come on, I'm blanking on the thing, which is why
the people disappear.
the Rapture.
Right? Yeah. And it was very nice to work with Luke Perry. He was very nice, a very positive person, and is dead. And when I was reading this, I was very shocked because he was absolutely super to work with. Great actor.
Yeah,
too.
I was really glad because I had on Easter, I did my Rapture Day, and this was one of the films I watched on Rapture Day. So
Okay.
on Easter, I always have like zombies, which I did the previous Easter was all your zombie movies. And it was slightly unintentional because some of them, like Anger of the Dead, I didn't realize you did. Or like you produced it or presented. Yeah.
I directed it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, oh crap, I'm actually having a you day, and then of course we brought this up, Rage Bull the documentary. I've seen the new one also, which is a good companion piece. But this is interesting. So I love that you beat the shit out of all those YouTubers. Man, that was awesome. Seeing that guy throwing up, and they deserved it all. So cocky and arrogant, and
yes,
except for the one guy who was like the amateur boxer that
and
was
Minter,
kind of watching you.
nice. Yeah, he was super nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and people don't realize that you own like a restaurant, you're a boxer, you've written books, you've done reviews, you have like a doctorate. I mean, you're not just some guy. You know what you're talking about when it comes to movies. So it's so people need to shut up and do their research. Fist of the Reich,
Max
another,
Schmeling. Yeah.
yep, another good one. This one, I am a massive fan of the first one. So I'm like, oh, let's see if he can pull it off because I love Frank Sinatra. He's the guy.
Yeah.
I'm Italian. He's Italian. And you did a good job. I thought you did
Yeah,
a
I mean, you cannot
good
really
remake.
compare both in a way, but we similar did it, right? So we did not the train because where we shot there was no real train track, so we did cars, right? So and but I think it was that is what the film like Ray Liotta, he, in comparison to The Name of the King, where he felt a little strange in this genre, was here full in his element. He just played people like this 100 times, and we shot it in Squamish, that is in on the way to Whistler Mountain, in the total shit weather, and it was like the shoot was very tough and horrible because it was so cold. Also in that house, there was no heating when we shot in the house. The whole hostage situation, so we were all freezing our asses off. Shot the film in winter, but I liked the film. It's very dense, like this intense to it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and why did you decide on Suddenly? Like, did you see the original and go, "Oh, I would like to remake that"?
No, it was this. There was that and Final Storm are the only two projects I basically didn't develop. Other people came to me and said, "Look, you're interested doing a remake of a Frank Sinatra film," and I said in the beginning, normally remakes are not like so good as the original, so I don't know. But then I read it and I felt it is long enough. Like, you know, when was the Frank Sinatra film? 60 years ago? Something like this.
Yeah, it was. In fact, it was. Yeah, Suddenly a Manchurian Candidate. He pulled from release because of JFK's assassination.
Oh yeah,
So
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's that. It's kind of a rumor or conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, that he went to the mob and suggested, like jokingly, that they kill Kennedy. And
Yeah.
then it happened. So he's like, oh crap, let me pull these movies. So it took a long time for because I know Suddenly was public domain, I believe, but then Manchurian Candidate was MGM. So that
Yes.
came out decades later. So but it's I enjoyed it. And then this is one that you produced. They Wait.
Yeah. Producer also. Yeah. Yeah. They Wait.
So what is the difference between you as a director and you as a producer, let's say, for something like this or like one of the zombie films?
I mean, there I normally give because I'm director myself, I don't want to really interfere with the director job. So, they need to do their vision, they need to do their way to tell the story. And that is why I give them a lot of like leeway. I'm not this guy who sits with the director to make him nervous. So, and I think that they liked that always, right? So they were like, Uwe is the best because he just let us do our thing. And I mean, I look at the dailies, I look at what they shoot, but I don't really interfere. And I would feel always when I direct something on Suddenly and Final Storm, I was not the only, on most of my other films, I am in a way the only person who has the say. But on these two films were other producers involved too, the Nasser brothers, Kirk Shaw, and so on. So, but they also let me do my thing. And, they came one time to set to say hello and whatever, because I told them before, if you want me that I produce it and direct it, you cannot sit with me there. That makes me uncomfortable. I want to work with the actors, and I don't want that the actors are focused on other people beside me. And they accepted that, and it was all good, and they were happy with the results. And I mean, for me, also important is, of course, that directors, if I produce something, that they stay in the budget. and not doing overtime and overtime and overtime, because I do that too. I'm looking on the watch, and if I know whatever, you have 12 hours a day where you shoot, and I know whatever 7 a.m. was the crew call, and we want to be done at 7:30 in the evening. So at 4 o'clock, 4:30, I really look into like how I get the day done. You know, I'm not like shooting till 7 and then I recognize, how should I do this now, right? So I'm, and I think that comes with experience too, that you see things coming way ahead. That I know at lunch break we will have a tough time to get the other stuff in the can. So I need to force it now. I need to move forward faster. We need these setups faster. Or I can do a setup together in like, that scene is in the kitchen, that scene is in the living room. Let's play both in the living room. Then the light is there and we can shoot. So that comes with experience. And I want, of course, the directors, if they do something, that they do it the same. That they're not like, oh, too bad, now we have to pay overtime and overtime and overtime. So, yeah.
And I know in the past that there were some problems with this, but what are your thoughts on like crowdfunding these days? Like out here in Vegas, the Mahal brothers are like the kings of crowdfunding. And do you have a different outlook on crowdfunding now, or do you not want to do it anymore?
No, I think I like crowdfunding. I would love to do it, but it's a lot of work, and I would need it like a guy doing it for me, or you know, like that. It's a project, but I cannot do every day something on the crowdfunding. It's like I need to other people run the crowdfunding for me. Let's say it's this way. You can say, look, Uwe Boll is doing House of the Dead new. Let's do a crowdfunding. I think that could collect some money. Right? I mean, it's not an unknown property if to say, let's do House of the Dead as an example. But then I'd ask Sega first if I can do it. But I would like crowdfunding, but when we did it years and years ago and tried it for Postal 2, it didn't work. You know, it was like 20 grand, 25,000 bucks, and we didn't took it because we said, well, with 25,000 bucks, we cannot do anything. So, and that is the thing. I mean, yeah.
Is there any film, you know, kind of like suddenly with doing a remake, is there any film that you would personally like to fund and remake?
Like a real remake of somebody else's film or something?
Yes. Yes.
No, what I would love to do new, but not that you cannot really, but you can do it in the US. I love The Professional from Luc Besson with Jean Reno.
Oh yeah, that's a good
one. And I love that film, and I think that could be a similar film in America. You know, that would be very cool to do something like this again. And but I mean, I'm sure you cannot remake The Professional. Luc Besson would flip completely out. I mean, that is better than like what we did with Suddenly, that you have like a public domain title where it's so old that you can't, you know, that you can just modernize it and you redo it and you don't have to pay anybody for it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's Night of Living Dead has about 20 you know, movies out because of that. So it's interesting that more people have not taken advantage of the public domain. Would you ever do anything like what you did with Blood Rain, The Third Reich, and Barbarella again, where you would take the sets and use them on a secondary film? Because when I was watching these, I'm like, oh, that kind of reminds me of Roger Corman with The Raven, how they went and did The Terror, which nobody likes. I love it. It's so weird. It doesn't make any sense at all. I love The Terror. I don't care. Look who worked on it. I mean, it's more of a historical thing than anything. But would you ever consider doing that again?
Yes, totally. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah. You know, that makes financial sense too, right? You have to set up costumes and to do something completely different or make a spoof out of it, whatever. I think it's it makes sense. It's efficient. I could never shot Auschwitz, what I shot after Barbarella and Blood Rain 3, because I had all the uniforms, I had all the old.
That's right, because you did 3.
Yeah, yes, because, and I know nobody would ever give me money for Auschwitz, so I said, look, I will continue shooting, but a totally different film when we're done. But I need all that stuff for a week longer for like almost nothing. And that was the great thing why I could do Auschwitz, because we had all the setup and the Second World War uniforms, the weapons, everything. And we had this unbelievable location of that concentration camp. So that was gold. Otherwise, I could never did Auschwitz. Yeah.
Yeah, and Auschwitz was so, man, it looked like you were right there. I mean, it's the casualness of the soldiers was amazing, and the lies. Come in, take your clothes off, remember where they are. You're just gonna take a shower. We need to get, make sure you don't have, fleas. And then just how they got completely duped. And then there's the scene where you're in, you're one of the soldiers and you're just leaning against the door and there's the round window. And the people are just like freaking out as the gas is coming, and just how it's just like just kind of hanging out, waiting for it to get done. Those are films that people need to see. And you have made a point on at least two of these that, history will repeat itself unless we, make these films or documentaries or write papers, books, and all that. And people need to see them because it's still happening now.
Yeah, when you see like the dehumanization, right? It's the first step. You have no empathy for somebody else, another race, another country. That is always the first step that you have. Like when you see that what the Hamas did in Israel, right? You can do this only if you don't see all these other people as humans. They are not humans for you anymore. They are like insects you want to kill, from babies to women, whatever. And and then when the revenge comes, when the Israelis going into the Gaza, what I think is necessary to do, but at the same time, that rage, what is in the Israel forces also, of course, gets dehumanizing the other side, where they feel like they are not humans, they're fucking murderers, they're fascists, like stuff like this. And that is like what happened in Darfur, what happened in Rwanda, where huge like genocidal kind of actions happened, where a whole Azerbaijan and Armenia, where whole countries or people inside the same country, like the Yugoslavian civil war, the Albanians against Bosnia, against Serbs, they massacred each other, like in Europe, like 20 years ago, where you feel like, are you guys insane? This kind of, so violence is this step to dehumanizing, and then the violence escalates, and then you dehumanize worse, so but I'm also, based on the Auschwitz film, totally against saying genocide to Gaza. In Gaza is no genocide. If for example, or in the Ukraine, when they say there's a genocide, no, it's not. There's a war, right? And if you want to do genocide in Gaza, you would throw a nuclear bomb on Gaza and they're all dead. I mean, then they're dead, right? So that is genocide. Or Putin would nuke the Ukraine and they're all dead. So because Hitler tried the genocide, he wanted the Jews all dead, period. And they handled it like a bookkeeper. They were not like emotional involved anymore. It was for them this kind of totally detached. Like, this is now what has to happen, like a chicken plant when the chicken's getting butchered. That is what Auschwitz was. Auschwitz, and similar I think in Sudan was a similar thing, where the Janjaweed tried to kill all the other Black Africans, where it was for them, like they all have to die, and they made it up to 500,000 people. So that was a real attempt of a genocide. But you cannot say, if 30,000 Ukrainians are dead after 2.5 years of war, that is a genocide. That is the normal civil death rate of a war, even low. I have to say low. It's not a high civil death rate in the Ukraine based on the 2 years of war. There are 100,000 of soldiers dead, but not the civil population. And in Gaza, the same. When you have 2 million people, you have tons of hostages, you have tons of tunnels, and you have tons of terrorists. just in hospitals hiding it everywhere. If you think there are from 2 million people now, 30,000 dead, that is not a genocide. You know, they try not to kill everybody, but what you want to do? If you go house to house and people shooting at you, there is no way as to shoot back. And then you kill maybe all the people in the house, and half, more as half, are like people that live in the house. So because they're hiding behind the population. So it's this kind of like, I have a lot of Jewish friends, and and they are not even have the same opinion about the situation, right? They are like, few say, look, wipe them all out. And the other people say, no, they have to stop these killings there. They don't have the same opinion. I have the opinion that they have no choice as to find all the tunnels, all the hostages, and to try to kill as many Hamas people as possible. Right. So, and that is a lose-lose situation. It's just totally fucked up, you know, that a situation like this even exists anymore.
Right.
That because of a religion killing each other like this is insane.
That's why I'm atheist.
Yeah, I'm an atheist too. I don't believe in anything. But that, and I think religion is, as Karl Marx said, right? So it's the root of all evil is a lot of times religion. And it's totally true. And you see that with all the Islam attacks everywhere, the Al-Qaeda and the ISIS. And, you know, it's horrible what religion did. Like in hundreds of years ago, more the Christians, they killed hundreds of thousands of people. But then the Christians got kind of, I think, civilized, you know, based on they were all in North America or Europe. They got under the law, the state law, and they got prosecuted for if they lose their shit and whatever, kill people. So, but now we have a real Islamistic problem worldwide. You know, it's like they get really going for the Sharia law. They want to take over whole countries. They do terror attacks, knife attacks. In Germany, we had 12,000 knife stabbings last year.
Oh, wow.
12,000 knife stabbings. So not everybody dead, but people wounded, people dead. And mostly like they were all, you can say from the 12,000, 11,900 from migrants. So because they just grabbed the knife, right? So they have not this normal hesitation to go very violent. So, you know, and that is the thing where I totally understand that a lot of people say, we don't want them anymore. Like they have to go, you know, so that is the thing. But I know also a lot of like Turkish people living here and everywhere, they're working and they're here in the third generation. And they even don't want the extremists here. They are against the Afghanistan people. A lot of people from Afghanistan came here and are totally radicalized. They said we have to run away from the Taliban, but they are not really running away from the Taliban. They are worse as the Taliban. They are like the ISIS, you know. So and they are here for political asylum, and then they're flipping out, you know. So that is yeah, it's a very bad situation. Now, yeah. So now we did an hour, 20 minutes.
Now, I know that you said that you had limited time. Do you want to stay on? Do you need to leave? Because I would still love to talk to you for longer. It's up to you.
Well, let's do 5 minutes, like 3 more questions.
Okay. Let's see. So, well, when you're, because have you lived in America? I know you've made movies in America, but you've actually lived in America?
No, the longest I lived was in LA, was like 6 or 8 weeks. But I lived in Canada, in Vancouver, for 8 years.
So, and that's where your restaurant is.
Yes.
Yes. And so being on the outside of America, being, you know, in Canada, Germany, when you look at our country as far as what's going on these days with politics, I kind of see it as, really? I mean, we're getting upset over I misgendered you, but yet if you go to Iran or Iraq and you do something like that, you're going to have acid thrown in your face, or you're going to be caught on fire. Do people outside of the US kind of look at us going, US, what are you guys doing?
No, I mean, I think that this gender diversity policy, woke stuff, whatever, is in Europe the same like US, like especially in Germany.
Oh,
The German government has no more support because they are completely disillusional about things, and the media here, that is, Germany is very similar to the US. Spain, Italy are different, right? So, but Germany is very similar to the US, and I think it's insane. What is different is, for example, we had European elections last weekend, right? Where 21 countries elected people for the European Parliament. And not one party, not even the completely nut-headed parties we have, like little shit parties where you think like they're totally out of their mind. Not one party questioned the election results, right? Not one. They all accepted it. That are the results. In US, that subject matter is already gone since the last election. You know, now the next election in US will be also 100% not accepted. You know, if Trump wins, he totally accepts it. If he doesn't win, he will not accept it. He will say like, no, I won. It's all of fucking cheating. And that is very dangerous for democracy, that the base things are gone. And I think it started when he put his this kind of legal people in the Supreme Court. In the Supreme Court in the US now, I think is a joke. They are like completely zero neutral, and they are completely political Supreme Court, where whatever, you know, they're totally anti-abortion, whatever. They have a clear agenda. They don't try to do the right thing. They only try to bring their agenda through, you know, and that brings America 100 years backwards. And that is where Europe is, of course, way more progressive with this. It's like, you know, like where no state in Europe starts to make it impossible to get an abortion. You know, when you have like a handicapped baby, when you have a rape baby or whatever, of course you have to abort that. You know, if you don't want it as a woman, you have to accept that, and you can get rid of your baby. In the US, they even want to disallow the anti-baby pill, where you think like, okay, now you're completely out of your fucking mind, right? So, I mean, that is insane. And so that is how Europe sees America, that a lot of people in Europe are very worried about the democracy in general in the US. And I have to say, I mean, I do that in my podcast too, what I do with Gary Otto in Boll Raw. We talk about it, and he's the total Biden democracy fan. And I'm, of course, would also never vote for Trump. But how can they run with Biden again? I mean, you see Biden has problems, but he's too old. He cannot do another 4 years, and he barely makes it now through the next half year. And that is, I think, a very big mistake from the Democrats, that nobody has the balls in the party. Even an older guy like Obama could say to Biden, look, we have to stop it. Like, we want to win the election, and you maybe will lose that election against Donald Trump. Because I think he will lose the election against Donald Trump. It's my personal gut feeling that I also, with Hillary Clinton and Trump, I said Trump will win this, and he won. And I say the same now. If they both are on the ballot, Trump will be winning again. And anybody else would win against Trump. Like a younger Gary Newsom from California, whatever, a younger candidate from Democrats will win against Donald Trump. I'm 100% sure. And it's horrible. So what do you say about this?
I actually went to school with Gavin Newsom. He was a year above me. We both went to Redwood. So from time to time, we would hang out at parties back in high school. But I think Hillary destroyed everything with one word: deplorables.
Yes.
That was it. That anybody that was on that fence went to the Trump side, and that was it. It's, if it wasn't rigged, if it was, you know, if it was a complete legitimate, straightforward election, I think she would have won if she didn't say that word. And that destroyed her. Just like I think Trump might have won over Biden if he had handled COVID better. If he had just sat there and said, look, this is what we're going to do. This is a real deal. I'm going to try to save as many of you as possible. You can even buy the mask that says Trump or MAGA on it, you know, make me some money. But if he took it seriously, I think he probably would have won. And when Bernie was out there, I have a feeling that if you put Bernie and Trump up together, the conservatives would practically die, like die of boredom, because he was there, and it's all the numbers and the, you know, and this and that, and people don't want to hear that. They want to hear a guy, like they said with George W. Bush. He's a guy that you want to have a beer with. So that's what they want. So they all of a sudden Biden pops up, everybody else disappears, and now he's talking about fighting in the back of a bar. You know, I'm going to take that guy out and fight him in the back of a bar. Now he's talking to the people. Yeah. And that's how he got in there. But I think, yeah, it's very possible that Trump will win. I think so too. I agree with that.
He's just, the energy's gone, right? I saw him on that videos that in the G7 now, and at the D-Day saying where he want to sit on a chair and there's no chair. So it's like he's not full there anymore. He goes a little in that Bruce Willis direction, when Bruce Willis slowly got out of it, and the focus is gone. There's no face impressions anymore. It's like really this dementia when it comes, and it's impossible that I almost hope that on the first debate on June 27, Biden is so visible out of it that they change it after that. They say, okay, it's over. We cannot do this. That is elderly abuse to put him on the ballot. We have to tell him it will not happen. And all the big Democrats, the senators, whatever, they have to gather and say, we're not going with him. We get another candidate. That would be the best for the world also, and the best for you know, for the international situation, because you don't want a total corrupt Trump, but you also don't want a completely senile Biden when China takes Taiwan, you know, and he thinks like, what is that red knob on my desk? Like, you know, like, I mean, then everything is happening. Yeah, then the Dr. Strangelove situation could come, where you're like, you cannot reach the people anymore with normal logical arguments. And I think that's the way we're steering to, you know. And for example, they did the peace conference for the Ukraine now without Russia. So, I mean, what's the point, right? I mean, there are two nations fighting, Ukraine and Russia, and you do a peace conference with 80 nations, but without Russia. So that is, first of all, total bullshit. Then the second thing is, Russia came and made a proposal, right? And everybody in the West wrote, fuck you, Putin, that is not a proposal, that is the last thing, forget it, we're not, you know, like, okay. Instead, as any good negotiator would do, is say, okay, look, he came in with his maximal, like, things, you know, the war is over if you give me boom, boom, boom. Now we go back and say, look, no, we give you this, 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 and the war is over. And that is how you stop a war. And at one point, coming to terms that the war will be not over with Ukraine winning and Putin is done and dead. That is obviously clear. You know, like military-wise, the Ukraine cannot beat Russia. It will never happen. So it's like, so you need to negotiate something. And that is the thing what I don't get. It's like they're all reacting to crisis and to things like that war totally wrong. You know, I think totally wrong. When they said in the beginning, Putin had no reason to attack Ukraine. Totally no reason. And you look a little backwards and you think, no, he had reasons, because the NATO took one country after the other, what was with the Warsaw Pact, Soviet Union in the Cold War, and Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, they were all on Russian side. Now they're all members of the EU and NATO. So the Ukraine would be the next what came into the NATO, right? So, and he has all his ships, all his harbors at the Crimea, at the ocean, in the Ukraine. It's the Russian biggest harbor forever. you know, and when they had peace with Ukraine, it was not a problem. They just had it there, even when it was Ukraine territory. And Putin knew if the Ukraine gets into the NATO, they will attack that. They will take it from him. And then he couldn't do anything, because then he would attack a NATO country, and boom, 25 countries will like destroy him, because it's obvious he can barely win the war in the Ukraine, that he could not win without nuclear holocaust, the war against the NATO. It would just be totally outnumbered. So, and that was the reason. Was it good that he did it? No. Was it a mistake? It was a crime, 100%. But to completely ignore and tell the world press, from the Washington Post to the New York Times, that with no reason he attacked Ukraine, is totally insane. It's like, it's completely insane. And that is where we are right now, that the left-wing media reports not the truth. They don't try to report the truth. And that is, you know, in the earlier days, only Fox News was talking bullshit 24/7. But now it's the left wings also who are on purpose ignoring facts, ignoring crime rates from migrants, ignoring this stuff. It's not good. It's a big mistake. You have to put the facts bluntly on the table. So, and now, what's now in Ukraine? We have here in Germany 1.5 million refugees from Ukraine. I know people here, 1.5 million, they're everywhere. The kids are in the school here, in my son's school, is tons of Ukrainians. So they want to go back. They want to see their husbands, but they're getting killed in a shit war, right? So, so what are we doing? Because we don't like what Putin wants, so we fight till the bitter end, till they're all dead, and they're all like the kids never see their fathers again. You know, it's ridiculous. How can they kill people like cannon fodder? You know, like this kind of, oh, we give a shit. Zelensky, more money, put them more on the front. It's unfair to the population, and I think that we need to sit down and get that thing over with. It's a very bad thing for the world. And by the way, it was also a good article yesterday, I think in Politico or something, that the pollution out of that war is the same pollution, only on the front lines, of 170 countries per year together.
Oh.
Because they're shooting non-stop, right? The rockets, the bombs. So if we want to fight climate change, if we really want to do anything, so we have to stop that, because it's lives, it's environment, it's money, it's you know, and it brings, of course, the security risk that at one point Putin flips completely out and we're all dead, including Putin, you know. But if he pushed the button and 1,000 nuclear bombs going, we will push the button and the 1,000 nuclear bombs going, and it's all over, right? So, and that is totally, let's say, unacceptable for everybody. So, and I don't get it. It's really like they completely discounted the Putin offer and wrote only a crazy proposal from Putin. So, but if you would be able, back to the dehumanization situation, if you would be backwards going to, I'm Putin now. So what is what I present to the other side to do peace? I'm of course not saying I give you $100 billion and I move out of Ukraine and call it a day. I mean, would I propose this as Vladimir Putin? No, right? But that he made a proposal to just keep the territories he has already, he would keep them. And he wants 3 cities more where they're fighting right now. And he wants the sanctions lifted, right? So, and he wants that the Ukraine doesn't get nuclear bombs, what I also don't want. They should never get nuclear bombs. And that they're not getting a member of the NATO. So, I think these conditions, you can negotiate better for us, right? So we could say, okay, the NATO, maybe they're not getting a member of the NATO, but we would put a security thing for their peace deal. Like if you, Putin, breaches that peace deal, the NATO will attack you. You know, so something like this. So then no nuclear bombs, no problem. The territories he carved out already is 10–12% of the Ukraine territory. These cities are bombed to the ground. So maybe you could say, you don't get the 3 cities we're still fighting in, but you keep the other territories. You know, and maybe we can lift the sanctions, but we take 100 billion away from the frozen money, because we froze 250 billion from Russia are frozen. They're under control of the West, right? To say, look, we do it this way. 150 billion going to the Ukraine to rebuild their country, and 100 billion goes back to you, and we lift the other sanctions. Boom. Why not coming back with something like this? Why? What's the problem? So you want to keep killing, and you want to spend billions and billions and billions. The US spent over 100 billion already for the Ukraine. The EU spent over 100 billion already for the Ukraine. And every single political talk, oh, we have no more money, we have no money, we have no money. Okay. You know, but then I think, yeah, you have to say at one point, it's the human lives, but it's also the money. We cannot afford it to keep a war going for the next 20 years, where we piss every year like 100 billion in. It's insane. It didn't pay out in Afghanistan. What a waste of money in Afghanistan. $4 trillion, you know, without any results in the end. The Taliban took over in one day. So, I mean, it's insane.
No, yeah, it really is. And you see to know a lot more about it than I do. So I don't even think I could really get into it in that much detail as you just did. So thank you. And that was longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Now we're finishing up. I missed.
Okay. So when can people see First Shift? When is that coming out?
So Quiver Distribution in US bought it, and they will release the film on the 28th of August in some movie theaters, maybe in Las Vegas too, but definitely in Los Angeles and New York. So we go from there. And then, of course, they will do the normal streaming, like it will be on stream somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. And then just one last thing, what do you have for, because you are independent and you have things to say about Hollywood and all that, what would you say to people that are interested in getting into film? What route, especially with these days with digital, would you tell them to take?
Exactly. I mean, it's way cheaper to shoot now. You have cell phones you can shoot a film on. And I think as a young filmmaker, you should make videos, short videos to see, and to surprising good ones. Don't make a 90 minutes film with amateur actors or something. I think it's better to do a 5-minute film or 10-minute film, put it on YouTube, show what you can as a director, show what you technical can. Now with AI, CGI gets cheaper and stuff, you can do so much more. And the second route is, of course, try to work on real film sets as a PA, you know, or then later as a third AD, or, you know, like whatever you can do, get that foot into the door, because only on film sets you meet people there in the film industry. So you have better chances to convince them to give you a chance, or to get you up the ranks in a way, you know, so that you have a better chance in the future to get a paid job in the film industry if you first start without pay. And yeah, I think that's the best route. So that idea, you're Michael Bay, you go from the film university and then you get 150 million bucks for your first movie that didn't pay it. It doesn't exist for everybody else besides Michael Bay.
Do you still not like Michael Bay?
He did a few good films I like, but I overall don't like.
He seems to be the #1 guy that you bring up, so it's
I know. Yeah.
So okay, well, yeah. Thank you so much. This has been awesome talking to you. I could discuss politics and movies with you for hours, but I know that you have things to do. So thank you for taking the time. I mean, you're in Germany and you're doing this for me, and I'm out here in Vegas. So thank you very much. And I hope everybody out there has enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next One Filmmaker. So bye, everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.